Hello everyone. So I'm going to make a labor and delivery video. Okay. So first of all, my due date was October 28th, 2010. And this is my first pregnancy, so I had no idea what to expect, or I just knew it was going to hurt, obviously. I asked my doctor, what to look for when to know I'm really going into labor. And of course, my doctor said, oh, trust me, you'll know when you're going into labor. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, my doctor was right. You will know when you're going into labor. It's a pain you can't take. You just gotta go to the hospital. You can't take it. So, basically, I had a false labor a couple days before, like Friday or Saturday before I actually went into labor. Because my doctor told me if I felt like a certain tightness, like it just felt super tight in my belly, and I didn't feel, normal movements that I used to always feel from the baby, just to go into the hospital. So I just went into the hospital, and they went to the labor and delivery floor. And then they take you to, at least with all hospitals, I guess, they work differently. But with mine, they first hook you up to a monitor to see if you're contracting the belly and the heartbeat. And then they check to see if you're dilated. I was contracting, but I wasn't contracting enough to be going into active labor. And also, I was 2 centimeters dilated then. But the nurse, they basically sent me home. They told me you can be 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters dilated for like a week or two. And so I went home. I was still feeling pain every now and then, but it wasn't like consistent pain. Well, anyways, on October 18th, the night before I had Kaylee, me and my husband decided to induce. I was just so ready to get her out, and I read on inducing labors, and so we wanted to try to. So we had sex, because I read that when having an orgasm, it makes like a contraction, like start contractions or something like that. So very soon after, around 8 or 9, it was so weird, 8 or 9, I started feeling contractions. So then I started and they were painful. They were painful. So I just kept counting how long they lasted and how many minutes apart they were. And they weren't very consistent. The doctor told me once they're 5 minutes consistently apart, then just to come in. So they weren't really consistent. I waited till about 10 or 11 to see. It just kept happening. But then they kind of went away a little bit. So, I decided I'm not going to go to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital if they're just going to send me back again. So I went to sleep early that night, which the whole pregnancy I was having trouble doing anyway, so it was weird. It was like my body was telling me I needed rest or something. So I went to sleep around 11, and around 5 in the morning, the next morning, I started feeling pain, bad, sharp pain, but it felt like I was about to get my period. And before I was pregnant, I had really, really bad period pains. I had to try to sleep through it, when I'd get it. So that's what it just kind of felt like. So I was just kind of used to it. And I started getting bad around 7 in the morning. And so then I went to the bathroom. It was almost 8, let's say 7:40. I go to the bathroom feeling like I had to go to the bathroom because I was just in so much pain. And in my panties, I saw a mucus plug. It had come out. It was like a brownish, mucusy pink thing. It was just in my panties. So then I just go in and I wake up my husband, babe, we need to go to the hospital now. And he was half asleep, just getting his pants on, and I was finishing packing the rest of my hospital bag. Toiletries and stuff. I had it previously packed, but I was finishing packing it. It's not like I was crazy hurrying. But from after the mucus plug came out, my contractions and my pain were very, very frequent and consistent. It wasn't just every single time 5 minutes apart. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 minutes apart, and it was getting worse. On the drive to the hospital. It was morning traffic, everyone rushing to get to work. I was catching all the red lights. I was screaming in pain, really mad at everybody, kind of cursing at people, like, not my husband, but just, oh my God, holding on to the car, like, handle, and just, it was hurting bad. I just wanted to get to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, to the labor delivery room, and I had to fill out the paperwork, whatever, really quickly, and I was just trying my best to breathe through it, as best as I could. And then I swear everyone that morning, on October 19th, was having a baby. Like, everyone was in that room, hooked up, to the monitors, it was packed. But, like, I went in the room, and they pretty much saw that I was in, like, real labor, sorta, but they still gotta do it. It's procedure, I guess. Hooked me up. Like, I don't think they even hooked me up for that long to check my contractions. The nurse just came in and checked to see if I was dilated, and she was like, girl, you are 8 centimeters. And I was like, oh my God, I need an epidural. Like, I was freaking out that it was so close to me having to push that I wasn't gonna have an epidural. I was so scared. So, right after that, they called my doctor and told me, like, I'm 8 centimeters, basically get to the hospital now. And they put me in the room, the delivery room, and I just kept saying nonstop, I need an epidural. I need an epidural now. I need it now. I am not having this baby without an epidural. Seriously. I was so scared of the pain. Like, I am scared of pain. So, they had to run blood work, and I just, to see something, if you could take an epidural, whatever. So they ran the blood work, and every single time a nurse came in to check on me or whatever, I kept asking for the epidural. When is my blood work coming back? Because they have to wait for the blood work results to come back before they can give you the epidural. I was freaking out, and the pain was getting worse. I was screaming. No one could talk to me when I was contracting. So I was just holding on to the bedside. In the room with me was my husband, my mom, and my sister. And I was just holding on that bedside, screaming, like, not crazy screaming, but I was like, ah, like, trying to scream through the pain, but breathing at the same time. It was really hard. And then, like, an hour after the blood work, thank God, the anesthesiologist came in. Now, only my husband and a nurse was in the room for the epidural. I held on to the nurse, and my husband was just next to me. I was just holding on like that. Everyone says I was really scared that you feel the needle, and the needle's painful, and, I didn't feel the needle. I think that they gave you, like, in the IV, they gave you some type of, like, pain, or I don't know. But I didn't feel the needle. So then the anesthesiologist is just like, okay, I'm about to put the needle in, you're gonna feel a shock go down your leg, one of your legs, and, it's normal. I think, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, okay, I didn't think, like, shock. He put the needle in my spine, like, in the spine, and, like, I'm telling you, it really felt like my left leg was electrocuted. Like, it was like, no lie, like, zzz, like, all down my leg jumped like that, and he had to take the needle out, because I jumped, and it, like, he's like, I told you it was gonna shock you. I was like, oh, I didn't expect it, like, to really, like, shock down my leg. So I had to force myself the second time. The needle pain didn't hurt. It was the shock that threw me off down my leg. So he did it again. So I, like, controlled my leg from the shock that time, and he finally got it. Literally, like, oh my God, epidural lifesaver. Oh my gosh. Right after I basically got the epidural, like, let's say, like, pretty much immediately, like, the nurse was just like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, I think I feel good. She's like, do you feel that? I'm like, wait, I'm having a contraction? She's like, yeah, you're having a contraction right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, awesome. Like, I don't feel anything. This is amazing. So, yeah. And then nurses come in and out to check you all the time. They have, in their station, they can see the baby's heart monitor and you're contracting. So it's not like you always have to call them. They have it out there so they can see it. So let's see. Pretty much right after I got the epidural, I was progressing pretty fast. Let's say like an hour or so after, they came in and checked me, and I was 9.5 centimeters. And this is the point. I had half a centimeter left to go. I was freaking out. Like, I was scared to push. And the nurse is like, oh, the doctor's going to come in and break your water, you know, so, you know, he'll be here in a few minutes. The nurse leaves, and then she comes back in, and I'm like, oh, I feel this, like, it's like a giant, it felt, first of all, you don't feel anything with epidural. My legs, I kept going this to my legs. I couldn't feel them. It just felt like it was like a mat or something on them. I couldn't feel them at all. So I told the nurse, I was like, I think my water broke. Like, it just kind of felt like vaguely, not like intensely, like a giant water balloon was like between my legs or something. It just went, just kind of felt like that. So she checked, my water actually just broke on its own. I didn't need the doctor to break it. And so they're still waiting for that half, and like after my water broke, so they asked me if I could feel anything, and I said I couldn't really feel pain or pressure too much, so they had to start taking me off that epidural a little bit, which scared me. But I still didn't feel like contraction pain. I just was enough to feel pressure. So after my water broke, it was like 30 minutes later or so, I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel pressure, I feel pressure, I need to push, I need to push, I need to push. I kept telling my mom and my husband and anybody, like, go get the nurse, I need to push, I need to push. Freaking out that I was just going to have a baby without the doctor there. The nurse comes in, and then they call the doctor saying I got to push, and I start doing practice pushes or whatever. So the doctor comes in, and I started pushing at 2 p.m. October 19th. And I just started pushing. I didn't feel it. I just felt enough pressure where it was just enough pressure where I could push. So around 2 p.m. October 19th, I started like pushing, like actively pushing. And maybe 4 good pushes later, at like 2:17, Kaylee was born. So I was like pushing for I didn't push exactly at 2 o'clock. I was pushing, it was 12 minutes. I pushed for 12 minutes. It was so fast, and it was amazing. Her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, so I had to stop pushing at one point so the doctor can unwrap it. And then he put her on my chest, and she was purple, but she was crying, and I was just so overwhelmed. My mom, my sister, and my husband all cried. I couldn't cry. I was just so shocked that what was inside me was now on top of me, and I was seeing her for the first time. It was just such a shock. So they cleaned her up. They took her away to the station right next to me. I could see. My husband cut the umbilical cord. It was the stump cut of umbilical cord or whatever. And while they, just cleaning her up, doing what they do on the side. Doing what they do on the side. And as they were doing that, the doctor delivered my placenta. The whole time I was looking over at my husband, everyone looking at the baby. They were all over there, which was fine. I wanted to make sure Kaylee was okay. He delivers the placenta, and after that, he stitched me up. Oh, by the way, he had to cut me. I didn't feel it. I'm happy I got cut instead of ripping. So I got stitches and all that, and then after, doctor left, and then everyone was holding Kaylee when that was happening, and then I got to finally hold Kaylee. And they left the baby. They told me that they were going to leave the baby in there for an hour with me. So I just, right from there when I got her, I started breastfeeding. And just breastfed her the whole time and was holding her. And then they had to, hold on a second, Kaylee's